My name is James Rowlands, and in 2015 I started the WNR podcast with my friend
Dan White. And every month we bring you the latest collections, newest content, 205 Live and the crown jewel of the WNR NXT update.
Also each month the latest pay-per-views, and we are live not only for the Big Four but every takeover as well.
Plus in 2019 we go back 20 years and witness the Attitude Rise and the WCW's demise.
Until we've watched everything, we are with you, and we are the WNR. Ho, 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 and welcome to the WNR Christmas Cottage. Dan's got the dinner on, there's presents to unwrap, and of course the 5th Annual WNR Awards. But as he's busy cooking, before we do anything, let's do the ultra intro. And of course, here's a Chris song, and Elton John will be doing it most of the year. Now we're going to continue. And welcome to my Christmas song. I'd like to thank you for the year. So I'm sending you this Christmas card to say it's nice to have you here. I like to sing about all the things your eyes and mine can see. So hop aboard the turntable. Oh, step into Christmas with me. Step into Christmas, let's join together. We can watch the snow fall forever and ever. Eat, drink and be merry. Come along with me. Step into the emissions free. Ooh. As you know, probably not my most well-known Christmas song, but still, I tried my best, and that's all we can ask for on this Christmas. So yes, hello, I'm James Rowlands. As always, I'm joined by
Dan White, who's finally free from the kitchen.
You are free and you're back here. Dan, are you excited for Christmas? Back in the cottage, the fire's on. It's lovely, isn't it?
I am, yes. It's this Christmas. You know, we've got the snow-capped mountains out the window. We've got the tree up, all the lights, all the decorations. It is a wonderful time of year.
It is the most wonderful time of year. Of course, our 5th Annual Christmas Special with the WNR Awards as well coming later. But before we do anything, let's start and have a look at last year's awards, because, you know, we do this every year, like we say, and were we right or happy about our picks? Now, first off, Dan, can you remember any of our WNR Awards from last year?
I can't, no. I mean, we've done so much wrestling for this past year, but, you know, I'm gonna try and remember who we've done and who we've, you know, because there were so many different awards as well.
Well, we have got, I think there's at least 21 awards to dish out.
At least 25 awards.
So we get started, and last year, our entrance of the year, mine was Oscar from WrestleMania.
Mine was Nakamura, also from WrestleMania.
Yeah, so very similar there with our picks. I think that was the kind of right choice. Our comeback of the year, what was our comeback there?
Well, both of our comebacks was Daniel Bryan returning from stepping back into a WWE ring after everyone pretty much thought he would never return.
Yeah, I think that was a great pick, if we should say. Our better off last year, mine was the Revival, and of course we're not doing that great now either.
Well, mine was Banks and Bayley, and I think they're doing better this year than they was last year.
Well, Bayley, of course, the SmackDown Women's Champion. Johnny Garganno Award for most punishment taken in a match. Mine was at War Games. I think he suffered 6 or 7 different injuries with that. Internal bleeding, of course, one of the toughest ones.
Well, mine goes to its namer and the bloke who caused him that pain and punishment, and that is Ciampa and Gargano for their feud throughout the year. I mean, it was just absolutely brutal, and the matches they had was absolutely top rate.
Yeah, really, really horrific stuff there in that feud. Underrated, mine was Kalisto.
Mine was Anderson.
You could have underrated to this point. I mean, Kalisto's not been featured a lot, has he? Whereas Anderson's had a little bit of pieces. Our one to watch?
Well, my one to watch was Velveteen Dream, and he still is one to watch as well, because he's been out injured for a little while, so he's been on the sidelines, but he's still charismatic, and he's still very worth watching. Yeah,
and he had a bit of success, didn't he, the past year. My one to watch was Lars Sullivan, and of course he was brought up with quite a lot of hoo-ha onto the main roster until problems with mental health, and then of course an injury as well, which just kept him out. But I think Lars Sullivan, once he comes back this year, next year even, will kind of have a big impact, so that would be one to watch as well.
On next to the internet darling of the year, mine was Seth Rollins.
God, that's changed in a year, hasn't it?
It has, yes, indeed.
Mine was Finn Balor. And I think with Finn Balor there, he still is very popular on the internet as well. And rightly so. Manager of the year, I went Leo Rush. Of course, he was with Bobby Lashley this time last year, so you know he did well to get that award. Of course, cruiserweight champion / X.
Yes, mine was the Singh brothers. I mean, you know, just their antics outside the ring. You know, the former Bollywood boys was at the side of Jinder Mahal. And, you know, the punishment they took, especially from Randy Orton when he flipped him upside down onto the announce table. And you could even see the look on Orton's face. He was like, out of it.
Dan's favourite award, the RKO of the year. Mine was Mysterio sliding out of the ring into an RKO. He had done that move repeatedly since his return. And
you'd hated it, didn't you?
I hated it, and quite rightly got hit with the RKO.
Mine was on Rude at Fastlane, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, but this was a match that we was absolutely because it was one of my favourites, or my favourite against one of your favourites, or probably your most favourite at the time.
Yes, without doubt, you know.
And was it for Orton to win the US title off of your man Bobby Roode?
Yes, it was. I mean, it's hard to believe that was nearly 2 years ago now, but obviously you would pick that. My move of the year was the Tyler Bate clothesline off the rope. That is such a fucking cool move.
My move was Ricochet in the War Games match. I mean, he just flew off the top of the cage and wiped out the whole lot of wrestlers below him.
Yeah, there was not many things that Ricochet can't do. Announcer of the year last year, I think, stick at you, Mauro Ranallo / Renee Young. Of course, Renee Young now is going to be taken away from the commentary and been put into kind of backstage roles.
Yes, and mine was Nigel McGuinness and, of course, Renee Young as well, because, you know, she'd kind of made the jump to doing commentary and she was killing it on there.
Yeah, my referee last year, before everybody jumped on the bandwagon, I was actually a big fan. Even though they made such a big deal of her leaving NXT for SmackDown, she deserves it. She was the best referee by a country mile last year.
Absolutely, yes. And mine, young Ric Flair, Charles in Charge Robinson.
Mini Nate, eh? Most hated, mine was, of course, Mojo Rawley.
And mine was a toss-up between Adam Cole, baby, and Mike Kanellis.
Holy shit good was Oscar for me winning the TLC match against Becky Lynch and Charlotte.
Mine was Titus World Slide during the Greatest Royal Rumble, and even the announcers couldn't keep it together because he just tripped on the mat and his whole body went under the ring, and it is one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in wrestling.
Yeah, of the decade is one of the funniest moments. Holy shit bad, the Crown Jewel event. And I tell you what, the Saudi Arabian events haven't got much better as the year progressed.
Mine was Romain announcing that his cancer had come back because, you know, he came out with a stern look on his face. You know, my name is Joe. And, you know, and it was a really sombre, serious moment. Yeah,
thanks for bringing us down on the Christmas special. No, our tweet, my tweet of the year was, well, both of ours actually, was Lynch just being the man on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, she was absolutely killing it. It was when her popularity was at the highest, and yeah, she was just smashing it. Most overrated, James?
I stand by my decision of Finn Balor. He's still overrated. When's the last great match he had?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And mine was Baszler.
Yeah, I mean, that's not right, because Baszler's definitely proven her worth. Even though we hate her, we can't deny the fact that she can put good matches like she did at War Games as well, so...
Absolutely. Our tag team, it's another joint effort between us both. And I went for Lorcan. James, who did you go for?
I went for Danny Burch. And together, we were lucky to get the 1-2 and get the tag team of the year. I wonder if there'll be many with our new the awards this year that will go the same. Well, I guess we'll find out in a little bit.
It's a relatively new award for the WNR podcast, and that is the WNR Hall of Fame. There's only 2 inductees into it so far.
Yep.
Mine was one of the greatest announcers ever, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Yeah, it's penis. What? When you say it like that, it doesn't seem like a big deal.
I've put someone who deserves it, and you just put a man's penis in
come on. I was more impressed with that in 2018 than I was anything else. Come on now. And of course, we'll have 2 new entrants into the WNR Hall of Fame later on this episode.
And now on to probably the more serious awards, or you know, the more meaningful awards.
The originals, the OGs,
the OG
in
awards,
the WNR Awards.
And again, we couldn't split our decisions, and we both went in match for Ciampa versus Gargano at NXT Takeover New Orleans.
Yeah, without a doubt, that was match of the year candidate. And then we had most improved, and mine was Ronda Rousey.
Yes, mine was Daniel Bryan. I mean, he'd spent a long time out with injury, and you kind of thought he would have come back with a bit of ring rust, a bit of apprehension because, of how serious his injury was. It was something that we thought career-threatening. But, he just shook it off, basically.
Yeah, and it's good to see him back now. My men's wrestler of the year, well, both our wrestlers of the year, was none other than Pete Dunne, who had put in a stellar 2018 and had remained undefeated in it as well as NXT UK champion.
Women's of the year, and again, it's one that we couldn't be split on. It was the man.
Becky Lynch. I mean, fair play to her for being a woman of the year. Came out and, had that moment just before Survivor Series and kind of made her mark. And our pay-per-view of the year, mine was a pay-per-view that we didn't have in 2019, and I hope we do have in 2020, and that was the Women's Evolution pay-per-view, which for me was a phenomenal bit of history looking back on it.
It was, yeah. It was a monumental pay-per-view. Mine was War Games. I mean, everyone just went to war at War Games.
Yeah, they did. So that is our last year awards. And like I say, to look back on them, I think most of them are pretty spot on. I mean, there's a couple of them, Lars Sullivan and Velveteen Dream, if they both hadn't had an injury, they would definitely be in better positions than they are, obviously, at the moment.
Yeah.
As for, our Kalisto and Anderson of underrated, I'm not really sure about that anymore. But, I think looking at 18 awards were a success, but I've no doubt 2019 awards are going to be even better as we get onto them a little bit. And of course, we're going to add one more category, but we'll get onto that later on. But now, Dan, it's Christmas Day. You've done the cooking. You've been cooking away for at least 12 hours.
At least 14 hours.
I mean, you've been giving me some nice stuffing you gave me earlier, though, Dan.
I did, yes. And I wouldn't take you for someone who's not a fan of breast.
No,
you preferred the sausages.
I did. I never thought you could wrap bacon around your sausage like that. And for me, it was delicious.
It took a lot of bacon.
It was really. I've never seen that much bacon in a frying pan. Honestly, I was shocked by that. But like I say, so we've been good boys this year, and of course we woke up in the cottage together because we're cottaging, of course.
Yes, and Santa. He had a full sack for us both.
God, he unloaded his sack underneath our tree. And I mean, this is just, it's bountiful. So I think we should open up our presents now. We've got big bags, and I've got James and
yes,
I've
got
one.
The biggest bag.
Yeah, you've actually got quite a big bag. So as you can hear, there's actually a bag full of presents.
Dan, you have been the best part of the WNR. You deserve it.
And mine says James. So that's quite interesting that both of us said it. All right, so there's a few presents in here for each of us. I'm going to open my first one, and then we just talk about what we got.
Okay.
Obviously. Do one at a time. Right, first. So I have no idea, because I put stuff on my list, but I can't remember.
Did he check it twice?
I think he did.
Did he find out if he's been naughty? Or nice?
Oh, wow. So the first thing we've got is quite a cool little thing. It's the Top Trumps, it's WWE quiz. So we've got, I guess, hang on, wait a minute. The cards, it's almost like someone pre-prepared. We've got cards from the presents, and there's certain wrestlers. Go on, Dan, pick a wrestler quickly. I've got all these wrestlers in my hand.
Well, it's got to be Randy Orton.
Randy Orton. Okay. Maybe I should have got the Randy Orton one ready at the start, but still. Let me just find Randy Orton. Is he Raw or SmackDown?
Yeah. Depends when it was done.
Well, there's two sets. There's Raw, there's SmackDown, and there's NXT. So, wow. Wow. Miz, Baron Corbin. I mean, there's everybody. I wonder if there's a Mojo Rawley one actually here as well. Maybe that will be.
Is that the one you ripped up and thrown away?
Okay, I can't find Randy Orton, but there is someone I can find. What type of match did Alexa Bliss defeat Becky Lynch in to win her first SmackDown Women's Championship?
Was it a chairs match?
It was a tables match.
Oh.
Well, you got 5 to get right. Who did Alexa Bliss manage in NXT?
That is Buddy Murphy, Blake and Murphy.
Blake and Murphy is correct, yeah. Who did Alexa Bliss face at No Mercy 2016?
I'd say Bailey. Thanks.
Becky Lynch.
Becky Lynch. It's one of the 4 horses.
One. Oh, no, you're not going. All right, so this is an easy one. What is Alexa Bliss's finishing move?
Sparkle, or it's the Twisted Bliss.
Twisted Bliss, yes.
It was renamed.
2 for 2. So if you get this, you win Christmas.
I'll win Alexa Bliss.
What did Alexa Bliss spray paint on Becky Lynch's back after she returned from an injury? Sorry, what?
Cunt.
She drew a cunt on there.
Did she write bliss?
No, she drew a yellow line because she was a coward. Yeah. All right, so that was SmackDown. I'll tell you what, because we're having so much fun here. There's a watch. Right, just pick out... All right, this is how confident I am. Pick out anybody. I don't care who. And then I'll try and answer them.
All right, okay.
Yeah, that's how confident I am.
Enzo Amore and Big Cass made their Monday Night Raw debuts by confronting who?
Monday Night Raw debuts.
Monday Night Raw.
Dudley's. Yeah.
What does Big Cass spell out for his opponents?
Big Cass spell out? You can't teach that, innit? Well, no, SAWFT, soft.
What does Enzo Amore refer to himself as?
Cunt.
Yes, that is correct.
Certified G.
Who managed this tag team during their NXT run? Was it A, Bailey, B, Oscar, or C, Carmella?
Is this the last question? Carmella.
Enzo Amore has the gift of gab. What?
The gift of gab and the gift of punches. Rhymes with gab. Oh, jab. Oh, you gave me that one last. That's a shame. Oh, well, so top chumps from Santa, you knew you'd keep us busy. That's fun then. So, I suppose... Oh, you never guess what? I found Randy Orton. I literally found Randy Orton. Right, sorry about that.
You've come across Randy.
I literally come across Randy Orton. Oh, this is so easy. Which WWE Hall of Fame is Randy Orton's father?
Cowboy Bob Orton.
What is Randy Orton's finisher move? What venomous snake does Randy Orton refer to himself as? Who did Randy Orton defeat in a ladder match to unify the WWE Championship and WWE World Heavyweight
John Cena.
Championship? What pay-per-view was it? Yeah, stop you in the tracks. No, it's not a question here, but it was TLC anyway. And finally, Randy Orton competed against Daniel Bryan and which superstar when he headlined WrestleMania 30? It was Batista. 5 for 5. Randy Orton. So there you go, top trumps. So go on then, Dan. You open up a present then.
Right. I've got a big present. Oh, sorry. Let's have a look. Oh, it is a Shinzuki fucking Nakamura figure.
Oh, wow.
And I hope that doesn't go the same way as the Dean Ambrose one you got me last year. Because Dean Ambrose left WWE and he's now John Moxley, so it's made it even more rare.
Oh, wow.
But if Nakamura leaves in the next 12 months...
That'd be the curse of the figures.
Please get me a fucking Matt Riddle one.
Yeah, I don't think they make Matt Riddle fucking wrestling figures. Right, let's see what else we got in there then. Well, hang on a minute. Well, I've got a weird shaped object as well in mine. So you had Nakamura. I wonder who
Kevin Owens.
Oh, wait a minute.
Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre. Well, should we unbox it? Everybody, mint in box at the moment. You ready?
Unbox is still fresh in box.
Is he still fresh in box?
Mint in box, yeah.
My McIntyre is no longer mint in box.
Why have you drilled a hole in the backside of McIntyre?
Oh, what is yours? I mean, don't get me wrong, the Mattel figures are alright, but specific ones. If we go, I don't want to get too into don't want to get too into action figures. Yes, boys, yes, ladies, I like them as well. But the McIntyre, I mean, he's got 16 points of articulation, apparently.
16 points?
Yeah, so, I mean, you can...
Why have you got him in the bent over position, James?
I'm just saying, you know, so...
Why have you taken off his trunk? Well, I didn't think they was removable.
Oh, I didn't think they're movable. Well, the knee pad's removable. It might be. And look at this, the foot can move as well, see? So, McIntyre, the collection, and it's probably the first action figure I've got in... Well, apart from I got your Ambrose one last year, didn't I? But it's been a little while. So you're going to keep your Nakamura mint in box?
I am,
fair
yes.
Fucking play, fair play. Well, you're up next then. So we had a couple of action figures, top trumps.
The shape of a DVD case.
So it's the shape of a DVD. What is it?
It is Ring of Honor, Nigel McGuinness in it to win it. And he looks like a punk rock.
So Nigel McGuinness in to win it. And, well, Santa did text me. And he said a couple of presents that we have are based on stuff we will be looking at in the new year. One of them is a Nigel McGuinness superstar profile. What type of matches are on there, Dan?
Oh, there's absolutely fucking loads. He's got matches against Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Kevin Steen, who's Kevin Owens, El Generico, who is against Jerry Lynn, Kenta Austin Aries. Fucking loads of different matches.
So the complete Ring of Honor Nigel McGuinness collection on DVD there.
Your turn, James.
My turn now. All right. Dan got a little bit waylaid by the Nigel McGuinness DVD.
Oh, sorry, who?
Nigel McGuinness. And of course, we were watching that for our Superstar profile. But I've got a weird, I don't think it's DVD shaped, but I'm not sure what it is. And let me just have a look. And oh, wait a minute. It's a PS4 game. And it's Fire Pro Wrestling. Wow, so Fire Pro Wrestling in Japan.
Let me have a look at your new game.
Yeah, you take your new game off me. NJPW.
It's got Kenny Omega on it.
Came out last year on the PS4 and other consoles available. But I can see why we got this one. Because, of course, NJPW, we're going to have a huge announcement on our NXT Update one about New Japan Pro Wrestling. But on this one itself, there's some playable wrestlers. And the playable wrestlers include, like I said, Kenny Omega and Okada. But more, I say better than that, Will Ospreay is a playable character.
Whoa.
Marty Skull is a playable character.
Marty, that's a girl's name.
Zack Sabre Jr. is
ZSJ.
So, in between having this game and 2K29... 90, because I didn't buy it, and I'm not buying 2K20. I refuse to buy any more WWE stuff. Because you've got Tyler Bate on there, Pete Dunne, Drew McIntyre is available there on as well, and then with these three, so we just need packs. So we need an AEW game come out next year, basically. But that is Fire Pro, so I'll be putting it up on the PlayStation, and of course you can download all sorts of wrestlers as well. And it's really is fun. It's something unlike other wrestling games as well. So I'm really looking forward to putting it on the PlayStation and giving that a game. Dan, what's the next one you've got?
I've got a little one here.
You've got a tiny little one in your hands.
Small
package. 1, 2. No, he managed to kick out. What could it be?
It's wrapped up really.
Well, Santa does try his best, I heard.
It's not really working out. What? Is this a piss tape? It's just fucking
it's wrapping paper.
All of it. Oh.
Well, wait a minute.
It says on it is Oscar green mask ornament.
Ornament for a green mask? Well, wait a minute, because on our tree... on the corner, we have, of course, got the Bobby Roode gingerbread man from last year, front and centre. Have we got another Christmas ornament to add to the tree?
That is lush.
It's only Oscar.
It is Oscar with a mask on, but it's got a new green mist mask on. And if you excuse me, I'm just going to go and hang this up on the festive Christmas tree.
Yeah, put it on the Christmas tree. I mean, we've got Bobby Roode, and like I say, he's front and centre on the Christmas tree. Yeah, I think they... So he's adding Oscar to the tree. Yeah, Oscar's got to go slightly above Bobby Roode. And we'll be adding to the tree as the years go by. It's quite chunky, isn't it? The weight of it is quite surprising considering for a Christmas tree ornament. But it is on there alongside Bobby Roode now.
I've taken Bobby Roode off because he's been suspended from the tree.
He come back 30 days.
For violating the wellness policy.
The tree wellness policy, please come back. No, stay on the tree, can't it now? That's what it does on the Christmas cottage. All right, so I've got 2 presents left. Dan, I think you got the same number.
I also have 2.
And they feel a bit t-shirty. Now, I think we're going to, hopefully Santa Claus has given us a couple of nice t-shirts to play with. I'm going to decide which one. Which one do I want first? I want the other one. So, let's have a look at this. So, oh my God.
Who is it, James?
Well...
indulge me.
It's the Iconics!
Oh, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce.
Billy Kay and Peyton Royce. The Iconics.
Well, wow. That is just like us. We are an iconic duo.
We are. So, I mean, you've got 2 t-shirts there. I mean, surely...
Don't call me Shirley.
One of them's got to be an Iconics t-shirt well, to go together, hasn't it?
I'm going to open this one. Mine is an Austin 316 t-shirt. I've wanted this t-shirt for ages, and I've come close to buying it a few times.
So Dan has got what he wanted, basically.
I mean, the closest I've come to an Austin t-shirt is the actual t-shirt I'm wearing, which is one that you've got me previously.
Yeah.
And it's a WWE Legends when it's got Hot Rods, never an actual Austin t-shirt.
Yeah. It's a proper Austin 316. Top with Stone Cold.
Is that the one that's it? No, it's not, because CM Punk wore a Stone Cold one, didn't it?
Yeah. That is the first official Austin 316. That is like the kind of, when people could talk about proper Austin 316 tops. That is the Austin 316 top there. Alright, so I got the colour. So my last one I'm going to open up now. Let's see what I got. Oh, and it's another iconic t-shirt. And speaking of your t-shirt with you got a Stone Cold on it, you've also got a Hot Rod.
If mine's Warrior or Big Daddy Cool, I am going to flip the fuck out.
Rowdy Roddy Piper, wow, hot rod. And that's, talk about like Roddy Piper and Stone Cold Steve, two kind of iconic wrestling t-shirt, along with the iconic tops there. But Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Will we get another iconic wrestling t-shirt?
Or you might get a t-shirt you might have had before. I'm still not sure. The last one now. Hey!
I have got another. Let's say your move.
Dan's struggling to open it. What is it, Dan?
I have nothing more than to open Miss Bliss.
We spoke about it just a minute ago.
It is your moment of bliss, and Alexa Bliss on the back, and that is another t-shirt.
Yeah, so Alexa Bliss. I know you're a huge fan of Bliss, but I know because Randy Orton tops, Santa told me. So Randy Orton tops, Dan's got like, at least half a dozen of them.
I've got at least 12 Randy Orton tops.
So I just want to build up your Alexa Bliss tops as well, along with the Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think Santa Claus did really well this year, I'm really happy. But my Drew McIntyre figure looks lush, along with my Rowdy Roddy Piper and my Conics t-shirt. Of course, can't wait to put the PlayStation on for that. And we can play games with the trump cards as well.
Absolutely, yeah. With my Stone Cold and Alexa Bliss t-shirts, I'm actually undecided on which one to put on next. So I'm just going to have to toss myself a coin.
Yes, toss the coin.
And I'm going to put my Nakamura one up next to my Dean Ambrose. Not John Moxley, but Dean Ambrose figure. And that is going to take pride and place on my wall. And of course, the Nigel McGuinness DVD as well, and the Oscar face mask. Santa done well.
Yeah, without doubt. There's no doubt I'm borrowing that Nigel McGuinness DVD off you, and there's no doubt in my mind that Christmas has been good for the presents now. So before we get to the 2019 WNR Awards, let's just find out how each brand did this year, because this is a new award that we're going to add, and because we had so much competition, it's brand of the year. Basically, we're just going to list five of them that we've got, and of course we'll add to it as the kind of next year goes on. But first, we just talk about Raw. So how, Dan, if you want to take Raw, do you want me to take it? How do you think Raw did this year?
I'll let you take Raw.
Alright, so we talk about Raw. I mean, that is the red-headed stepchild now of WWE. What started off as kind of like the flagship show is now second place behind Friday Night SmackDown. And of course, the 3 hours. Who watches Raw in its entirety anymore? There is few and few people. No. They might watch clips, they might watch stuff like this. There is no doubt since the draft, Raw has got a really good roster that it's got potential for. But when we look about what it's done this year, it's not really delivered. Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar as Universal Champions not really worked for them that well. Their best thing has been Becky Lynch, and she's been splitting the time between SmackDown and Raw. It's been proven as well on Raw, the best rated segments are the ones featuring Becky Lynch. So that's something they're going to look forward to. Is Kevin Owens the answer for Raw's thing? This year, Raw's not been great, and I think it would probably be the best, at least for one, even with Paul Heyman in charge, with the Rusev and Lana storyline going on and other things like that. It's not really clicked this year, has it,
Absolutely not, no. It has been disastrous throughout. I don't think it's been flitting and starting all over the place, It's not had anything of any traction, and when they do get something good, they kind of either shoot it down or overrun it and just completely kill it.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, and I think that's what we've seen with Raw. And what about SmackDown? How do you think SmackDown's done
well,
this year?
With SmackDown, I think, it had its very, 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 very brief run with Eric Bischoff running the show. I think since it's moved to Fox, it's going to get better. I mean, the caliber of champions has been a lot better. Daniel Bryan, the Planet Champ, Kofi Kingston with his with his just lifetime moment. Not even anything to do with the pay-per-views. It was just an achievement for him. The storylines have been a lot better, especially with the emergence of The Fiend. Brock Lesnar winning the WWE Championship. No, that is probably the worst part of it. But I think on the whole, SmackDown has, certainly between Raw and SmackDown, it has had the better show. Yeah,
what's worrying about SmackDown is that it's been a level of consistency for the past couple of years, and since it's moved to Fox, which we thought would be bigger for it, it's kind of the same thing, and maybe even less so than it has been with the storylines, especially with the kind of Corbin and Reigns, with the dog feud as well. It's kind of not really worked out, but SmackDown, like I said, has done better than Raw this year. One that's done even better than that, we move on to that next, the Development League. I think NXT UK is in a bit of a strange position because when you talk about what they can deliver with takeovers events, they've had 2 takeovers and they've hit both out the park. The hour-long program is entertaining, but it is the least on it. You know, apart from 205 Live, which is not even featured anymore in this, NXT UK gets featured the least, and it's only relevant 2 times a year. And when you've got people like Tyler Bate and Volta and Imperium as they are, and people like Cassius Ono and Gallus and Aya Dragunov and
Morgan Webster Flash,
and then you look at the women's division, which is probably one of the strongest divisions in the entire WWE. You know,
well, it's so strong they've kind of taken from it.
Yeah, exactly. They had to, didn't they? You know, you talk about people like Ray Ripley who have made the move across now, Piper Niven, of course, and Tony Storm. You know, NXT UK is in a great place if given enough time and respect that it needs. You know, but as compared to Raw and SmackDown, it's not on the relevant levels. What about NXT? How do you think that's done this year?
NXT, I think, you know, with it's not been its strongest year. But I think it's still been strong, especially as far as storylines go. You kind of had Adam Cole kind of taking the show on his back, so to speak. You know, you've had a few injuries, especially with Gargano and Ciampa, and Adam Cole's kind of carried it. You know, as annoying as fuck as he is, even Matt Riddle, you know, he has relatively not strong matches, but consistent matches.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the emergence of Keith Lee, who, especially over Survivor Series weekend, was the standout performer for both of us, I think, you know, things can only get bigger and better for him.
Yeah.
You know, Pete Dunne, I know he's on a bit of a losing streak, but I still think it's something that he can overcome and kind of build on. When Dream comes back from injury, he's going to be fucking strong as anything. The women, you know, with Io Shirai, you've had her heel turn, you've had Candice LeRae kind of being her like obstacle in her way. You've got Shayna Baszler, who, you know, hopefully sooner rather than later she's dethroned as champion. Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir, her 2 lackeys who weren't even good enough to make it into her team at War Games. You know, it has been good, and the tag team division, I think that's the one that needs the most work on in NXT.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. But it's weird to think, you know, about NXT as well. What's helped it and what didn't help SmackDown to kind of move to Fox is that when it's kind of went head-to-head with AEW and gone to Wednesdays, the program has become kind of must-see now as well. And the stuff of the past couple of months has been a lot better than the stuff we saw the previous amount of years. And that has a lot to do with Undisputed Era as well, of course, involved in the storyline there and kind of basing it off. And then the last promotion that is up for nomination tonight is AEW. Now, I love AEW at this moment in time, and I'm not saying Dan hates it, but we've kind of argued a lot over what's right and what's wrong. So if you talk about the kind of negatives for AEW, and then I'll try and sidetrack that with the kind of positives we've got from the promotion.
Well, my first negative is the lack of pushing its women. You know, they've kind of wanted to do something different, and you know, Raw and NXT UK, you know, no matter how things get, they always still feature their women quite predominantly, and they're proud of them, but it seems like AEW are hiding them in the background. You know, with a combined time of 5 minutes on their last 2-hour show. Yeah,
but they need to work for it, but I think they can build towards that. You know, you've got talent like Britt Baker and, of course, Bea Priestley, and, of course, Rio, who's come out of nowhere. We didn't even know who Rio was this time last year. Now she's fighting championship. They're building a program with Brandley Rose. There is time for developmental, but NXT's got the advantage because they've had a women's division put in place for the past 3 or 4 years, whereas AEW are just trying to build theirs now. And, of course, maybe the male division, tag team division, will be a little bit stronger, but then AEW can kind of sort itself out after a little while. You know, if the women's division's not sorted out 6 months in a year's time, then there's a problem. I don't think right now they're still trying to bed it in,
you know, I say it's still relatively new. Yeah. My next problem, the referees. The amount of fucking referee blunders we have seen. And, you know, it is from seasoned veterans as well. Shirt Stealer Hebner is kind of like their ringleader.
Shirt stealer.
Aubrey Edwards. I mean, her facial expression just put you off during the match.
I couldn't disagree with you more with Aubrey Edwards. I think referees are awful, yes. Are they as bad as WCW from 97 to 99 period?
No.
No, well, there we go then. So you got to look at the positive. All right, what's your next thing?
But you know, with the missing counts as well.
Yeah, I know it's annoying, but
AEW wanted to. They should focus on being AEW instead of being something comparing itself to WWE. I think they have got so much WWE in their brain with their former WWE wrestlers. You know, a lot of them have been through WWE at one point or another in their careers. And, you know, for something that wants to be different to WWE, how they can be so very similar to WWE is, you know, I think it's just try and be your own thing.
Do you think they've made a mistake going with the Moxley-Jericho feud for the title? Do you think they should go somewhere different? Is it too WWE then?
I think a lot of their feuds are to WWE. You know, and I know you can't really help that with them being former WWE wrestlers, but they're kind of doing what WCW done in the past, you know, stockpiling talent that's been released or not had their contracts renewed in WWE.
Yeah, I think that's the problem that we've seen, and hopefully they don't sign all the kind of ex-WWE guys, but just using wisely. You know, Sean Spears has kind of not been used great since he's come across, and even MJF has, you know, kind of cooled down a little bit. But I think there's a lot of potential there. I think AEW to come up without any kind of experience and go head-to-head with NXT, apart from maybe 2 or 3 less shows, it's all been good wrestling. And yeah, it might not be, you know, it is an alternative, but you want to kind of get different. I understand completely what you're saying as well. But I think for what he's doing, considering it's only like 3 or 4 months old, AEW's done a quite good job this year, haven't they, you know?
It hasn't done a bad job, you know, and again, for the first, 6-7 weeks, they was creaming it in the rating. But now kind of NXT had a win, and then, you know, they're kind of evening out where they've both got a similar amount of views as well. You know, I just think that AEW heats over. It's like I've seen a multitude of pictures from people in AEW crowds. And, you know, it was during promos, matches and what have you, and the whole top is completely empty.
Yeah, but WWE has the top section.
Yeah, I'm not saying they don't.
But they've got long gone on the days where, you know, apart from, you know, kind of major pay-per-views, WrestleManias and stuff like this, when they go touring around, it's very difficult to get, you know, even 10,000 people in the arena, let alone, you know, whatever it is, 5,000 as well. I think we're struggling, and we talked about that on the British special as we did last week. Professional wrestling everywhere it's struggling because people just haven't got the money to go spend on these events as well. So especially when it's like we talk about the promotions we've got, you know, WWE, NXT UK, you know, Raw, SmackDown, and you throw in kind of Ring of Honor or anything else like that here. You need to find the events. You know, we were lucky when we went to see IPW because of the tickets, the way they were. I thought it was worth it, but a lot of people haven't got that kind of income to kind of spend on it. So but if they do go to see one wrestling event a year, it has to be worthwhile. And that's what AEW needs to do. If people are going to watch it just once, they need to make sure they hit it out of the park. And I think that's the thing. I think there's potential. I think with Raw, I don't see it changing unless they get they knock it down to 2 hours again. It's just going to kill everybody. SmackDown is become troll friendly at this point. NXT's doing well. NXT UK has the potential, and I think so is AEW. But we'll find out later who are. Well, actually, that'll be our very first award on the WNR Awards. Will promotion of the year. All right, so drum roll, please. Here now are the WNR Awards. I want to do that again. The 5th Annual WNR Awards are now.
It is now time for the WNR Awards.
Yeah, so the 5th Annual WNR Awards, and let's start. We've got lots of categories to go through, but we'll start off with promotion. So, Dan, what is your promotion of the year?
Well, it's a promotion that we have closely watched, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And every year we worry when wrestlers go up to Raw or SmackDown how the brand's going to cope, and it always seems to knock it out of the park. And that is NXT.
So your promotion of the year is NXT. My promotion of the year is none other than NXT. And like you say, when you think it can't deliver, just look at the takeover events in themselves, and every single one has been absolutely top notch. NXT, especially with the resurgence now, people like Keith Lee, it definitely deserves the promotion of the year. But shout out to NXT UK and AEW. There's a lot of potential there, isn't there, for in years. Alright, so up next, our next award is the Johnny Garganno Award for most punishment taken in a match. Of course, this was first done after Johnny Gargano had faced the Authors of Pain alongside Tommaso Ciampa. Not only lost that one in a horrific encounter, but then got destroyed himself by Tommaso Ciampa. So, Dan, this year, Who does your award go to?
Mine goes to John Moxley and Kenny Omega from AEW's Full Gear match that they had. It was a brutal encounter between the two, and I think, every piece of instrument that could get involved to hurt someone got involved in that match.
There's not many matches I watch with you where I can see you're visibly uncomfortable, and this was definitely one of those where it just kind of went a step too far, and I could see it in your face. But don't get me wrong, the punishment they took in that match was horrible, but I don't think anything compared to my choice. And that is, of course, Mia Yim in the ladder match to find out what team would go first in War Games, where she got fucked up, basically. Not only getting busted wide open, but then falling through the ladder that was set up in between the barricade and the ring and injuring herself to a point where she couldn't wrestle at the War Games in itself. That is the Johnny Garganno Award for 2019 for Mia Yim.
Absolutely, yeah, most deserved as well. Just the face getting busted open by that ladder was quite a sight. Our next award is Most Improved.
So who's your most improved for this year, Dan?
Mine was Keith Lee, because when he first emerged onto the scene, I was very, very unsure about him. But his performance at War Games / Survivor Series, I think, it kind of pushed it over the edge for me, because, he was growing on me, and he's grown even more, so much to the point where I think, he's a brilliant performer. He was in the last 2 at Survivor Series. And, that is quite a good accomplishment, only getting dethroned by Roman Reigns because Vince loves Reigns, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, you weren't a huge fan of Keith Lee when we first saw him, and he's kind of grown on us, and you as well to become that. And I mean, he was definitely one of my choices, but I think mine for most improved this year is someone that I've actually had a go at in the past for not kind of being the best wrestler or kind of, the best talker and all such, and that is Becky Lynch. She is my most improved this year. A couple of main reasons for this as well. Like we said, in matches, Becky Lynch sometimes maybe has to be carried a little bit more than other opponents, even though she's a good competitor. But I think this year she's kind of honed her craft a little bit more. Barring the WrestleMania main event aside, I think, and even that, I think Lynch put in a good performance. The character work that she's given on the promos, there's no doubt she is the most popular character on Raw, and it just shows an improvement in her work where she can get given the main event for Survivor Series, the main event for TLC, whatever it is, and not be fazed by it and say, okay, I'm going to take this on. And her work in the ring has been as good as any other woman this year, so I think that's why, especially when I've been so hard on her in the past, that's why she's my most improved this year. Alright, so up next, holy shit. We've got 2 of them. So the holy shit good moment of the year, Dan.
Mine was Becky Lynch in the Royal Rumble. It was, she had just lost her title early on in the night. And, she made a surprise. I'll say that in air quotes because I think it was a worse kept secret than fucking Buddy Murphy.
I mean, even though you didn't go Lynch and I did, I mean, still no hard feelings about what happened at the Royal Rumble.
But it still was a very good moment, and it was a moment that, made the fans stand up. And whose injury was it?
It's taken out. Oh God, Lana. It was Lana.
It was Lana. Yeah. Lana hurt her ankle, didn't she?
She hurt her ankle in a pre-show, and then that paid off.
Yeah, so, Becky Lynch coming out, taking her place and actually winning the Royal Rumble to get herself booked into WrestleMania was, I thought it was a great moment. Yeah, no, I thought it was a great moment as well. I think there's 2 moments for me this year that's made me go, holy shit. The first one has got a bit of a return of CM Punk. I mean, even though it's not official back in WWE, to just kind of have that relationship of him being in WWE backstage kind of does wonders for everybody. The Punk return will happen in WWE. We will wrestle one more match, it's guaranteed. When, we don't know, but this is the kind of start that we needed. My other holy shit good was just The Fiend. And I know they've gone off The Fiend to begin now. They've started to bring it back a little bit. But that first appearance at SummerSlam, where we weren't sure what we were going to get against Finn Balor, and we saw The Fiend in all his glory with a Bray Wyatt torch. For me, that was the kind of holy shit of, we haven't seen a wrestler like this in so long, so much potential. Yeah, they kind of nearly blew it at Hell in a Cell. Trying to bring it back now. I think those are 2 moments. You look at the year, I was like, Punk, fucking hell, and The Fiend, that's good shit. Talk about, that was good moments. What about our bad moments of the year? Mine is also the Rumble, and that is Nia Jax in the Rumble. I think that was it was an absolute awful moment. You know, Nia Jax, again, I can't remember who she injured, probably R-Truth or someone like that, to come into the men's Royal Rumble and try and do what Becky Lynch had done in the women's Rumble early on in that night. And, you know, I just think, no, it was poor, very poor.
It wasn't very poor. I think for me, my problem is I've kind of forgotten about what happened at the Rumble, if you know what I mean. That's been so long ago. I even forgot that the moment I have picked was actually this year. But I've got a couple other moments. First up, Kofi Kingston losing the WWE title in 7 seconds against Brock Lesnar. Should never have happened that way. Left a sour taste, I think, in everybody's mouth, including Kofi. But he's too much of a company man to say anything. Lesnar shouldn't in that number of seconds. Shane O'Mac, best in the world. This is something that WWE have forgotten about, but that was on our screens for the first, I think, 9 months up until October, until the SmackDown where Kevin Owens beat him in a ladder match. But Shane O'Mac as best in the world was a terrible idea for everybody. But so number 2, my number 1 moment is a moment I nearly forgot happened this year. It is probably the worst match that I've seen in a very long time, especially with 2 guys that I liked. It is Goldberg versus The Undertaker from Crown Jewel. A clusterfuck. Everything was going fine until Goldberg knocked himself out in that ring post. And The Undertaker just hasn't got it anymore. Let's be fair. This was a moment to forget. And that is a holy shit bad. But don't get me wrong, Shane O'Mac and Kofi are 2 bad moments as well.
Yeah, that was an awful fucking moment. I'd kind of erased that from my mind. Up next, it's the Comeback Award. Mine... For me, it's something that, again, it was my holy shit bad moment last year, and it kind of leads into my comeback moment. My holy shit bad moment was Roman Reigns with his leukemia. My comeback was Roman Reigns coming out and going, I'm in remission, yo. You know, and that was an absolutely beautiful fucking moment for wrestling.
I'd have to agree with you. To see Roman Reigns come back, and you know he's destined for greatness in 2020. There's no doubt about it, and all credit to him for taking that on. My comeback of the year, even though he's a guy who made a return the previous year, I still think this year's it's been good for him. My comeback of the year has been Rey Mysterio. Now, the reason why for Rey Mysterio is that he came back last year and all he did was slide across the fucking ring. And this year, with his feud with Samoa Joe for the United States Championship, even though, yes, he had to give it up due to injury, he's now relevant again after the Brock Lesnar feud, even though, you know, he didn't lose as quick as Kofi Kingston did, but he lost at Survivor Series. United States Champion again.
Thanks to...
Well, thanks to your man, without a doubt, Randy Orton. But the thing with Mysterio is that he's come back into relevance now. And whereas he come back last year, he could have just been a legend to come back for a couple of matches like an RVD and be forgotten about. Mysterio now will have kind of a last run, which I think is deserved of someone of his cat. So that's why he's my comeback of the year. Manager of the year, Dan.
You know, managers in right far and few between. And so, you know, there's only one choice, and that is the voice of the beast incarnate. His name is Paul Heyman. You know, he's absolutely brilliant on the mic. You know, for a manager, that is probably one of the only qualities you need. You know, he's a snivelling, backing off, whiny bastard, but you know, when he's on the mic, he's probably got a bigger set of balls than Vinnie Mac.
Right, I mean, Paul Heyman's been doing it for so long, but I'm going to give it to a guy who's only been doing it this past year. And I know I went Leo Rush last year, but I think this guy has kind of taken it like a duck to water. There's not many people who are good on the mic as him, and that is the voice of the, I'll say the voice of the voices, but it's Sami Zayn, who is, for me, manager of the year. What he's done with Nakamura after Nakamura struggled. Nakamura, you know, winning the Rumble, came up short against AJ Styles. Now he's Intercontinental Champion with Sami Zayn. Zayn is one of the most entertaining things during the Nakamura match, or during anything where you see his kind of reactions. Yes, he's a great in-ring talent, but he's getting Nakamura over by being so good on the microphone as well. Zayn can work face and heel as good as anybody as well. And as a manager, that's a great talent. A lot like Paul Heyman. That's why Zayn's my manager of the year. Speaking of people good on the mic, what about your announcer of the year, Dan?
Announcer, mine is Nigel McGuinness. You know, I didn't want to choose Corey Graves because he's an arsehole to his co-workers. Jerry the King Lawler, he's kind of past it. I'm not a fan of Mauro Ranallo.
Really?
But not to the point where I'd go on Twitter and announce that I'm not a fan of Mauro Ranallo.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it only really kind of leaves Nigel McGuinness.
Well, I think for me, it's been a pleasure to see Tony Schiavone back on AEW television and to see him as commentator. I nearly went Jim Cornette, and then I thought maybe that wouldn't have the right connotation to it. So I think there's only one man. It's a guy. There's not many wrestling announcers now. I mean, credit to Michael Cole for the past few years to kind of take that gravitas on with kind of big moments. But I think this year's a guy who is a great commentator, and that is Nigel McGuinness. I too have gone Nigel, just because of what he brings and the kind of experience that he's got. And I think that's a part of it why we're going to do the kind of superstar profile as well early in the year, just to show what Nigel McGuinness is all about, and not just great as a commentator on NXT or NXT UK or anything else he's given, but just as a man as well. All right, Daz, what about referee of the year?
Well, James, I didn't jump on the bandwagon last year, unlike you, but she is a wrestler that has certainly grown on me, and she's a referee that has grown on me, and that is, it's Jess Carr. And she's finally and really well and truly deservedly been called up to the main roster as well, to referee matches on Raw and or SmackDown. The speech she gave when she had kind of been given that promotion was absolutely brilliant as well. So yeah, thoroughly deserved.
Well, you say that. I think, Jess Carr, yeah, she had a banner year, but I think there's one woman that's done better than her, and my referee of the year is Aubrey Edwards, because she has refereed an AEW championship match, the very first ever AEW title match. She refereed, she was in. And the thing I like about AEW a bit more than WWE and NXT with it is they're not harping on about, we've got a female referee that we put in our, matches. They just get on with it. She's just there officiating, like you said, she's exactly the same as Shirt Stealer, exactly the same as anybody else in AEW. Whereas Jess Carr, they make a big deal of it to kind of say, oh, look at us now. And I think personally, Aubrey Edwards is probably a better referee than Jess Carr at the moment. When you talk about the stuff they do with accounts, and if Jess Carr's good, I think Edwards is better, and that's why she's my pick for the year. But what about most hated, Dan?
Matt Riddle. I don't want to talk about him. He's a cunt. No, he just absolutely fucking irritates me. The mindless drones that follow him as well. Bro. He does a fucking broton, he does a bros line, he does a fucking bro mission, he does a fucking bro 5, he does a fucking bro this, bro that. I mean, come on, I'm not one for fucking having, special names for every single one of your fucking moves, but every single one of them has got a bro something.
Yeah.
And, his fucking stupid squinty fucking eye look, and his fucking long stupid hair, his stupid fucking mushroom tattoo, his stupid flip-flop fucking flip every time he gets in the fucking ring. No. Just fuck off, you twat.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with you. Matt Riddle is the most hated this year for us. And I think, it's very rare we both agree on one wrestler. And I think Matt Riddle this year is kind of taking it beyond. It's because he's not a bad wrestler, but it's just his personality and everything else that he does. Just great. And even coming out, with the flip-flops, the bare feet, is just annoying. He's just a kind of stoner guy that doesn't go well with kind of what WWE is all about at this moment in time. I don't think he's that likeable, even though the fans, slowly turn. Because the problem is it brings success. And if you're not successful, then fans will turn on you as well. And this is the reason why our next episode is the year-end predictions. And of course, it's a massive year for us because it's 2 years all. We're going to find out who the definitive winner of the predictions are on the WNR podcast. There is a losing T-shirt that the loser has to wear.
There's a T-shirt. It's looming.
It is.
I don't know if anyone's ever seen Top Gear, but when they do like car challenges, like they buy cars quite cheaply, and they've got to go across Africa or go across China or something. And there's always a forfeit car that's always looming in the background, and it just reminds me of that.
Well, this is definitely the 4 feet T-shirt.
The bare feet T-shirt.
Oh, it's awful. It is the original Bro Matt Riddle T-shirt. So the loser of the predictions will have to wear this T-shirt at the winners, Beck and Cork. Of course, we're not going to the O2, so it will be any time. I reckon every podcast that we do, I reckon every time we go see Wrestling Live, the original Bro shirt will be worn. I mean, I don't like it, but you said you were quite a fan of it, so you're right with it then.
I'm just glad it's not got his face on it. That would have just been worse. Original Bro, it's only got Matt Riddle in tiny letters. I know it's got his stupid fucking slogan on it, but I would rather wear that than my Enzo Amore one. What about you and your Benoit one? Which one would you rather wear?
I don't mind my Benoit one. I don't have a problem with it.
So everyone else has got a problem
exactly.
with it.
I'm okay with it. I wouldn't want to wear this one. I mean, I've tried. We tried to get the best one possible, but I mean, we'll see. I'm confident that I won't be having to wear it, so you'll be having to deal with that. But like I say, we never know. Predictions are so close, and especially after what happened at TLC, Dan.
Indeed, yes.
Well, I mean, who would have thought that would have happened?
I mean, that was just absolutely fucking crazy.
I honestly, no idea. Okay, so up next, Internet Darling. Who is the most, well, I think the award speaks for itself. Who's the most liked Twitter at the moment?
Well, there's two for me. One of them, it's not just specifically Twitter, it's across the internet, and that is Joey Ryan. I've shown a lot of people because, as it is, it's common knowledge that we've been to see Joey Ryan live.
Who would have
met
thought?
The man, the myth, the penis, and James, I can't believe you even got away with that.
Do you know that? I need it there. It's like...
That is just...
Wow.
And everyone's like, who's Joey Ryan? I was like, well, let me just show you this video. And it's, a picture of Joey Ryan flipping someone off using his cock. And they're like, well, what's all that about? I was like, no, he's got the penis power.
Yes.
And my other one, again, it's not confined to Twitter. It is R-Truth and his 24/7 title antics. I mean, pinning Jinder Mahal on a airport tarmac, or going to a golf course, or pinning someone on an aeroplane, or and the videos, they got so many views on YouTube as well. Yeah. It was just something that kind of, it brought entertainment to a title that we thought couldn't be entertaining. I mean, it's kind of died down for a bit now. They get their sporadic appearances throughout, the occasional match, or the little segments on Raw or SmackDown, but the videos that accompanied it, I think they was absolute gold. Yeah,
without doubt, I think what we've seen on there is great. My one is just, this is a guy who can post anything on Twitter and people will love it, basically. And it just proves his kind of popularity here. My internet darling this year is Kevin Owens. Because it seems Kevin Owens can do no wrong. He can tweet out, I'm going to go see the family, and, we're going to spend it and watch, with my kids. And
he's so sweet.
I know, yeah. He can say he's going to kick someone's ass. There was not many guys who could use the stunner as a finisher and get away with it. And that shows Kevin Owens' popularity, irregardless of WWE people to be able to... Stunner's a cool move, but to be able Owens to be able to pull that off. And like I said, if you go to his Twitter feed, he literally can post anything and people are just so positive about it. That's not a problem, without a doubt. And Owens is doing it well at this moment in time. And again, it's someone that... You talk about how good a heel Owens was. It's a surprise how good a face he is. Well, and that just shows his character, And it is coming off with Twitter, anything on Twitter there. Okay, a really important award. We introduced this last year. So it's a Lifetime Achievement Award. Who goes into the WNR Hall of Fame? There's two people in there. Dan, your choice last year?
It was mine, is of course a legendary character in WWE and WCW, Mean Gene Okerlund.
And mine was Alex Wright's penis. With Alex Wright along for the ride. Okay, Dan, so who is the third person to go into the WNR Hall of Fame?
Mine is the first actual wrestler and not wrestler's appendage. Eddie Guerrero.
Oh.
Fuck off, I'm Eddie Guerrero. I mean, going back, because we've spent quite a bit of time watching him, 20 years ago, and just the amazing wrestler he was and ahead of his time with everything he done. His mic work, absolutely brilliant. And, his wrestling was absolutely perfect and top rate all the way through.
Yeah, I agree with you. Eddie Guerrero is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and to go into the Hall of Fame, the first, no offence to Alex Wright, but like I said, the first proper legend to go into the Hall of Fame, and Eddie Guerrero, without a shadow of a doubt. My pick is a serious one this year as well, because I thought it would accompany Mean Gene Okerlund really well. And this is a guy who's, without doubt, you do a list of man of time, he's probably top on the list. You do a list of top announcers of all time, he's top on the list as well. He's a guy who had chemistry with people like Gorilla Monsoon, people like Tony Schiavone in WCW, people, like Mean Gene Oakland as well. And that is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Now, I've got so much to say about Bobby Heenan that I'll try and cut it down as much as I can. I just want to tell you one story about this. And that is WrestleMania 3. Now, I'm going to be as quick as I can. And the story is basically of Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. And everybody knew this was going to happen. It was going to be a big match. But Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan were the two biggest faces of the company. And what made them turn against each other? What was the one person that made it happen? That is Bobby Heenan. He sided with Andre, and people just said to him, okay, Andre's the bad guy. He's the biggest bad guy on the planet. Andre the Giant didn't speak hardly a word of English. So leading up to the event, it was all Bobby Heenan who was doing the interviews alongside Hulk Hogan to draw people in the building. They say he got the biggest WrestleMania payment of a non-wrestler ever for that one night, which set him up. And Bobby Heenan basically drew, they say there's 93,000 people, but Bobby Heenan basically drew the people into that crowd. So they want to see Hogan versus Andre. It was a masterful. We talk about Paul Heyman as Man of the Year. Heenan had this ability to get people and to just hate him and dislike him. And not just a once over. There's people that we hate that you get beaten up once and, okay, I forget about him now. With Heenan, he had the ability throughout his whole career to draw people in week out to see him dress up as a weasel and get beaten in and out. And that kind of shows you the talent of just the consistency that Heenan put.
Well, the talent of him, it also extends to, I think at one time he had like about 5 or 6 wrestlers he was managing in the same promotion. I mean, it's quite uncommon for nowadays to have managers. I think there's about 2, 3, maybe 4 managers throughout in wrestling. It's not a common thing. Most wrestlers learn to speak for himself, but Bobby the Brain Heenan was absolutely brilliant on the mic, and he could make you absolutely hate him, which is, it's not a Matt Riddle type hate. It is a hate because he's a heel. Yeah,
you love to hate. And just remind WrestleMania 5, talk about the Heenan family. He had 5 different matches on that one, and that's how important it was to the entire card as well. And let's not forget about his great calls as well. Like when Shawn Michaels put Marty Jannetty through the window and he said Marty Jannetty did it himself. These types of things. That is why Bobby Heenan is there in the Hall of Fame. All right, Dan, so we're going to get on to the kind of big awards coming up soon. But up next, this is a good one. Better off last year. Who was your better off last year?
Eric Young.
Young. You can say Eric Young.
Yeah.
Who?
Eric Young. Exactly. I mean, he was part of Sanity. They'd all moved up. And now if you look at the former Sanity members, Killian Dane doing well in NXT. You've got Nikki Cross doing well on the main roster. You've got Alexander Wolf, part of Imperium, doing well on NXT UK. They're all doing well. And poor Eric Young, the leader of Sanity, is just kind of wrestling against Mojo Rawley and getting beaten backstage in segments on the main roster. I mean, he has been dealt.
Yeah, I think Eric Young made better off fucking 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not been great. EC3 is a guy that could be easily on here, on this list of better off last year. But then again, last year wasn't great.
It wasn't great for him even now.
One man who I think has had a disastrous end of year, thanks to Vince McMahon apparently not liking him. That one, better off last year, Cedric Alexander. Cedric Alexander, of course, Cruiserweight champion, known as the kind of heart of the Division 205. I have great series of matches with Ali, but then jumping across to Raw and becoming so hot that you actually thought, feuding with AJ Styles, and McMahon saying, wait a minute, nah, I want to job you out. I'm not interested in this. Cedric now has got a long road to hold because you can't go back to 205 Live because that's gone now, basically. Come on, let's be reasonable about it. The Cruiserweight title, I think, is a little bit beneath Cedric at this moment in time. And if he's not going to be a mid-carder, what is he going to be? So Cedric, for him, he's better off last year. And Eric Young as well. What about overrated, then?
Overrated, again, it kind of ties in with my most hated, and that is Matt Riddle. I mean, fans love him. A lot of people love him, but I just don't. I just think he's overrated, and everyone thinks he's the next best thing since sliced bread. He's kind of trying to get himself into feuds with the likes of Goldberg. You can see there's going to be an impending feud with some point as well. And it's just like, no, mate, you just, no.
I think he's a good wrestler, though, and I think people don't say he's like the best out there, you know. And I think for me, for overrated, it's got to be someone who calls themselves the best or says how good they are, and then just doesn't back up in the ring. So that's why my overrated for this year is none other than Seth frickin' Rollins. This is a guy who has said that he is the kind of standard bearer in WWE. Now, can you tell me the last time, not a 5-star match, but the last great Seth Rollins match that we've had? Do you know what I mean? One-on-one with a guy of, like, you know, a talent. Brock Lesnar matches aside, you know, I know he's been dealt that hand, but matches against Braun Strowman and stuff. This is you know, a young Shawn Michaels will be bumping around and get them out of them. You know, we talk about great wrestlers. Seth Rollins is someone who, no, I don't know if the title reign soured him. He says he's great, but it's difficult because for me, I don't see him as the kind of the best wrestler. You know, we talk about best wrestlers this year. Maybe last year when he was Intercontinental Champion, he was given matches, but this year I don't think there's been a couple of moments where I thought to myself, "Oh yeah, he's the guy."
I think like the spotlight of being a WWE standard bearer has gone to his head. And he thinks, well, because Vince McMahon likes him, he is that good.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, Vince McMahon liked the fucking Roman Reigns getting fed dog food sketch. So, you know, it's kind of tells you everything about what Vince McMahon thinks.
Yeah. But I think the thing for me, I can remember, you know, Roderick Strong versus Matt Riddle match being quite good this year. With Rollins, you know, it's like what the Fiend versus Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. Talk about holy shit bad. Probably one of the worst matches this year. And you know, and he blamed afterwards. He said, "Oh, the red light doesn't make me perform well." There is no excuses if you're meant to be that good. And if Seth Rollins is having to go at Will Ospreay online, we know how good Will Ospreay is. Rollins has got to kind of back it up in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Up next, we've got tweets. Tweet. I mean, there is a lot to choose from because a lot of wrestlers are very active on Twitter, and you know there are some very comical exchanges, some of which we've spoken about on the podcast. But for me, is the exchange between Batista and Dana Brooke. How they was flirting in front of, you know, they must have, you know, a few 100,000 followers on Twitter apiece. You know, I think Batista's probably up in the millions.
Yeah.
And, you know, just openness and flirting between the two of them, you know, sending cheeky little pictures for the whole world to see. Eventually sliding into each other's DMs as the youth do.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was very entertaining, and it was a good, you know, it was a good thing.
Without a doubt, you know, and I think, you know, there's been a lot of serious stuff on Twitter this year with wrestlers kind of having to go at each other and stuff like this. But I'm going to focus on the positive as well. And it's not a tweet per se. I mean, I could pick one out. It's Big E on Twitter. He's fucking awesome. I know he doesn't tweet as much as he does.
Whose mum was he tweeting?
Bum was the one that I was going to... If I had to pick a tweet, when he started chatting up Becky Lynch's mum on Twitter, that's my guy, you know. He's had a go at WWE about the way they've treated Kofi on Twitter, about The Fiend as well. He is not afraid to say what he thinks. And I think he has kind of been... He's won Twitter this year for me. It has Big E, you know. All right, Dan, your favourite award of the year, maybe?
It is, yes. You know, we have, aside from the award for most punishment taken in a match, this is an only other, it's kind of dedicated to just one wrestler, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, Randy Orton, and that is RKO of the year. And mine was against Jax at the Royal Rumble. You know, it was my holy shit bad moment because that really annoyed me, but you know, you could see it, how else everyone thought about it as well, because, you know, she got 619, she got super kicked by Dolph Ziggler, and then just out of nowhere, bang, Randy Orton hit her with an RKO, and the crowd absolutely fucking loved it as well. They lapped it up big time. Well,
without a doubt, you know, it was a great moment, and Randy Orton, you know, talk about maybe not had the most successful year, but there's been a few moments, and my RKO of the year was come from SummerSlam with a feud with Kofi Kingston. When Kofi came flying off the top and Randy Orton just squatted him down to kick out. But the RKO was spectacular. I mean, I do love when
it a Trouble in Paradise.
I do love it when Kofi flies, or whenever a wrestler's fly. You know, we've seen it before with the top RKOs, the springboards and the stuff like this. When you get caught in it, it does look awesome, and I think that's why it's my RKO of the year. What about move of the year, Len? Is it an RKO?
Any other year it probably would be, James. But mine is Ciampa ending Cole for the War Games cell. I mean, it was, you know, they was both perched atop. There was a couple of tables set up below. And Ciampa just kind of hoisted Cole up onto his shoulders. And it's not just the move as well. It's the way he protected Cole while Cole was taking the move as well. You know, you can see Ciampa's body tensing up as he took, you know, trying to take all the brunt. He protected his neck perfectly. And, you know, if that could have gone horribly wrong, but it didn't, and it turned out absolutely beautifully.
I was going to go for that, and then I thought, no, wait a minute, because I know Dan's going to go for that, because that probably is the moment or the move. But mine was a little bit weird, but I'm going to try and explain it.
Bear with him, ladies and
gentlemen.
gentlemen.
Bear with me. It's Tyler Bate versus Walter for the UK title, right? But it's every move that Tyler Bate does. Okay? So I'll try to explain. So it's like, when he's trying to get slammed, he's like holding on to Walter to stop himself getting slammed, you know, showing his strength and what he's got. When he's flying around, he can do the suicide dive. He can do the kind of Phoenix splash off the top if he wants to. You know, there's that type of moves. The power moves that he can do with the kind of the clothesline, which I love anyway, and then the kind of press slams. Bate worked that match probably as good as anybody has in years. It was kind of Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels kind of level of Bate in that one match, and everything that he was doing was just clicking. And you know, if you take one move, maybe the outside dive to the Walter, or even picking him up on his fucking shoulders in a torture rack and slamming him down in that way, a guy who weighs, you know, 150 pounds more than him. It was just a thing of beauty to see this guy kind of move. And it was like, if I was going to be a wrestler, if I was going to have a move set, I would have every move that he has, you know?
I'd like to put an honourable mention out to, I think it was at a live show. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, it might have been on Raw or SmackDown. But it's the brief exchange between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton as well.
Yeah, that was on Raw. Yeah,
that was absolutely brilliant. There was a brief chopping exchange. I think Drew McIntyre said you've had like 67 different titles, or, you know, probably a higher number. And, you know, was chopping Randy Orton, and, you know, that was because, you know, for me it is like my top man going against James's top man, and the fact that my top man outsmarted yours with a simple poke to the eye. Yeah, you know, something that he learned from the Nature Boy.
Yeah, the dirtiest player in the game. Well, up next we talk about future and one to watch for the future. Dan, who's your one to watch in 2020?
Well, he was the most improved this year, and he's my one to watch next year, and that is Keith Lee. You know, apparently Vince McMahon was absolutely impressed by his performance over the Survivor Series weekend. Right is probably one of the first calls Vince has probably actually got right. But again, you know, he's someone that's grown on me throughout the year, and if he keeps growing on me, you know, next year is going to be absolutely fucking phenomenal. It's going to be limitless for Keith Lee.
I think without a doubt, you know, when you think about Keith Lee, he was one that I might have put down. And then I thought, no, because, he's going to have an awesome year. You know, hopefully in NXT and then move up to main roster. I mean, Vince McMahon sees him as a kind of like a big hill on Raw and SmackDown as well. Which I think my one, and it's a little outside the box, but I think my one to watch this year is none other than Aleister Black. Now, Ali B has had a hard shake of things, and we know tag teams when they come up to the main roster don't usually last. Aleister Black's been really unlucky, not with just injuries and stuff like this, but being on SmackDown and having that whole gimmick of who knocks on the door and who answers and stuff, and maybe having only one match with Cesaro like he did, coming over to Raw, and, you know, now we're getting a feud that he's got coming up with Buddy Murphy, which should deliver. I think Black's one of these guys who comfortably could hold the Intercontinental United States Championship as a heel or a face, and could definitely be, you know, going towards the main event as well, depending on how they do it. The Black Mass kick is kind of really cool move as well. I think there's a lot of potential. If they decide to get behind Ali B, there's no doubt he'll definitely be one to watch in 2020.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I can't not agree with that. But I'm going to be watching one of my guys. All
right, Dan. So underrated. Who's underrated in 2019?
Underrated in 2019, I think Lorcan and Birch. I mean, with what they had, you thought the future could have been anything for them. They are super over with the fans, absolutely brilliant workers as well, working well together. And then you get only Lorcan wanting to, he was kind of in limbo about whether he'd be leaving WWE, presumably over the treatment that he's received, and the way that they've been done. And I think, they deserve a lot better than that. Even moving up to the main roster, definitely title contenders in my books.
Well, only Lorcan signed a new contract now, so let's hope there's hope for Lorcan and Birch on either the main roster or NXT. And I think they're underrated. I think, one of my... Look, all right, you're going to have a go at me for this one, but the underrated guy this year has been Buddy Murphy. He's been the best kept secret on SmackDown, on Raw, on 205 Live. His series, put him in a ring with Daniel Bryan or Roman Reigns, he shows you exactly what he can do. Put in a ring with Aleister Black, you're going to tell me it's not going to be a good match. It's going to be a great match.
I'm not going to deny he managed to pull out a very good match against Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns, Mustafa Ali, Cedric Alexander, everybody that Murphy goes up against, he has a good match. Yeah, he might need to work on his selling a little bit, but, he's growing as he gets. He's a guy that you could put in. We talk about, Seth Rollins or anybody else. Put Murphy into a match, it's going to be good. And that's why he's so underrated because he deserves a bit of direction. He deserves a feud. He deserves a kind of run. You talk about United States Intercontinental title. I think Murphy would perfectly suit that.
I see Murphy as someone who is, in his entire career, unless it's a Kofi Kingston moment, is never going to reach the top title.
But you need to be given a chance to run.
Yeah, I know he needs to be given a chance, but I don't think he's ever someone that's going to be able to get,
I see
comfortably into the Continental, team up with someone, tag team titles. Yeah, but I don't think he's ever going to get all the way to the top.
All right, up next, we'll do entrance of the year. Dan, who's your entrance of 2019?
Mine has to be The Fiend. When he comes out with a Bray Wyatt heads, with a mouth stitched up with a light glowing from it, and it's the similar Bray Wyatt entrance, but it's he's kind of changed up his theme tune. He's given it a bit more jazzy, and it's a bit more darker. The only thing that I don't like about it is, just after the entrance when the red light shines.
Yeah, that is fucking awful. It's a really cool entrance, though. Mine is due to the pop it got, and that is Kevin Owens at NXT TakeOver when he came out at War Game. And no one knew who the mystery opponent would be. Music hit, fucking everybody went crazy. That is an entrance. That is what it is all about. And Owens coming out and eventually hitting the stun. It didn't matter what he fucking hit during the match because it was that moment right there. So I think two really good entrances of the year. All right, up next, women of the... So we'll do a woman and a male rest of the year, and then I guess we'll have a definitive superstar of the year as well. I think that would be fair to say. So who's your woman of the year to begin with?
Io Shirai. Now, you've absolutely raved about her. We've watched her quite closely, and she is very impressive in what she does, and her heel turn, I think that's kind of revived the character that was getting a bit, I don't know, it was a bit misdirected because Kairi Sane had been moved up to the main roster. She's now teaming up with Asuka as part of the Bukaki Warriors. Fair enough, good on her. But Io Shirai, she was kind of a bit misdirected. Give her the heel turn, give her a dark outfit, and her work rate never falters.
Yeah, I mean, she seems so comfortable either working a face or a heel, even more so as a heel, which is crazy. And like I said, there is so much untapped potential for her. But to be, the rest of the year, the women's rest of the year, I think fair play. For me, I've got to go with my most improved as well. For my women's rest of the year is Becky Lynch. She's held the title since WrestleMania, and people aren't questioning yet when she's going to drop it. She could hold it conceivably for another year, and people wouldn't mind. That's her popularity. Yes, her popularity maybe waned a little bit, but she's consistent. So, like I said, the ratings are the biggest for her. She's a big merchandise seller, and she's really improved in the ring this year as well. So that's why Becky Lynch is my women's wrestler of the year. All right, Dan, what about your male wrestler of the year? And then we'll do superstar wrestler a little bit after we do pay-per-view and match.
Well, it is going to come to a surprise of everyone who's ever heard any of the podcasts we've ever done. And my wrestler of the year is someone I absolutely hate, but you can't falter the matches he delivers, and that is Adam Cole, baby.
I can't believe you've got Adam Cole rest of the year.
You know, every single match he's done, he has managed to deliver in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't take that away from... I hate the person he is, not the wrestler he is. And, again, you know, someone who also had a very good Survivor Series weekend. You know, every single NXT pay-per-view, you know, he's had great matches against Ciampa. He's had great matches against Johnny Gargano. Even a very, very good match against Ricochet. And, you know, you just can't fault his work rate in the ring.
And I have to 100% agree with it, because my male wrestler of the year is Adam Cole as well. Like I said, that Survivor Series weekend, where he wrestled Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, was a phenomenal performance of someone who was injured as well, going through it, had a cold, and then picked up the injuries throughout the whole fucking weekend, and still continues. The series of matches with Gargano, the three matches with Gargano, are something of kind of legend that they'll be on now. Adam Cole's been a consistent guy in NXT, and he's knocked out the park each time. Very rarely is there a guy who has, you know, proved so much, especially someone like Dan, who hated Adam Cole, who's turned it round now and just delivered the matches. So, you know, Dan's got no choice, I've got no other choice than to kind of bow down. And all the people that said Adam Cole, he's not the next Shawn Michaels, but he is the first Adam Cole, and he is the male wrestler of the year.
Absolutely, yeah, you can't disagree with that.
All right, okay, so we've got 3 more wars first, but I just want to stop quickly. Couple of bits of news story. Have you seen Fighting With My Family?
Yes.
Okay, what did you think of it?
I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was alright, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a terrible film, but it was a good film. You know, it is obviously based on the story of Paige and her family, and kind of, you know, the dynamics with her brother as well. You know, how Paige made it, her brother didn't quite, and you know how Paige didn't quite fit in with the other wrestlers because she was a gothic type look and all the others were blonde, busty, and so on and so forth. But yeah, you know, it's a real good feel good story.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn's good in it, you know, for what he does as a trainer, doesn't
Frost.
he? Nick Frost is brilliant as the dad. He's cracking.
The Rock's cameo.
The Rock's cameo is good in it. Yeah, I saw it recently. I quite enjoyed it. But an interesting news story come up, because you talk about the brother never made it. The brother is called I can't remember his name right now, but he is
something Knight.
No, as in the actor.
Oh, sorry,
right?
Yeah.
So the actor, I think Jack Lowe, right? He the actor in it, and he kind of looks, you know, he doesn't look that great. He is the favourite to play James Bond, the next James Bond now, the brother of Paige Fighting My Family. Yeah, and I love James Bond, and I couldn't believe it when I saw him, and I thought, oh, that is the same guy as in Fighting My Family. So there could be a connection between WWE and James Bond, which I thought was weird.
Batista's been Inspector.
He has been Inspector, but like a guy who you wouldn't... Paige's brother could be the next James Bond. Crazy.
But not her proper brother.
Not a proper brother. The actor that played a brother in the film. Okay, and the other thing I want to say is Tito Ortiz versus Alberto Del Rio. I stayed up until 5 o'clock in the morning to watch that. At the Mexican fucking MMA show. What an embarrassment.
I just want to say that Tito Ortiz had his title on the line. Alberto Del Rio had a WWE title on the line. I mean, he had a very brief run with the WWE title.
Look, it
wasn't
years
a memorable
ago.
run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and you know he's obviously kept a WWE title as a memento, and he actually lost that to Tito Ortiz.
He didn't just lose it, it was an embarrassment. He tried a couple of punches to begin with, and then Ortiz cut the punches. Del Rio gave his back up, which he should never do, and Ortiz easily tapped him out. It was in Mexico, and Tito Ortiz had Trump 2020 banners as well, which was quite funny. The Mexican announcers were not happy about this and said even though Tito Ortiz won the fight, they're still not going to build the wall. Donald Trump's obviously got his own problems anyway. And like I said, Tito Ortiz won. It's an embarrassment for Del Rio. If he wants to go back to WWE or wherever it is, you know, fine. But I've got an idea. MMA fight. Alberto Del Rio, CM Punk. Let's have the match. A rematch from Survivor Series 2011. Let's have the match everybody wants to see in an MMA fight between the two. There was 2 news stories that I just thought very weird the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, they have been very weird, yeah.
Alright, so let's finish off the WNR Awards, the 5th annual. We've got 3 awards left, and we've got the 3 biggest ones, you could say. We've got Match, pay-per-view, and of course Superstar. But we keep track of ratings. We do it every single year. We've got our pay-per-view ratings for 2019. Our match grade is just match of the night. So we'll start with our first pay-per-view. NXT UK Blackpool. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, and my match of the night was Mustache Mountain versus Grizzled Young Vets.
Mine was exactly the same as yours, 8.5, Mustache Mountain versus GYV.
Then we had NXT TakeOver Phoenix. I gave it a 9, and that was Ricochet versus Gargano was my match of the night.
I too gave it a 9, and again, my match was Ricochet versus Johnny Gargano.
You got to stop copying me. The Royal Rumble, 8.5 out of 10. The Women's Rumble match was my favourite.
I'm not going to copy you this time. I gave it an 8.25, and I am copying you on the Women's Rumble match. That was my favourite as well.
Well, the Chamber, 8 for me. And we both went for the Men's Chamber, and we both went for 8 for that one.
At Fastlane, I went for the Raw Tag Title match, and I gave it an 8.5.
Yeah, I gave it an 8.5, but I thought the US title match between Bobby Roode and Randy Orton was the match of the night.
NXT New York, I gave that a 9.5, and my match of the night was Cole versus Gargano.
Yeah, Cole versus Gargano was my match of the night, but it was a 9.25 rating.
Mania 35, an 8 out of 10, and my match of the night was Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, Kofi Kingston Bryan was the match of the night for that one. I gave that a 9. It was actually a really good WrestleMania. And then Money in the Bank, I gave it an 8.5, and the Men's Money in the Bank was my favourite match.
My match of the night too was Men's Money in the Bank. I gave that a 9 out of 10.
TakeOver 25 was an 8.5, and Cole versus Gargano was my match of the night.
Cole versus Gargano was also my match of the night, and it was an 8.75.
Shitty Super Showdown. It was a 7 for me. Triple H versus Orton match of the night.
So that's the second time you've given Orton a match of the night. You've not given Drew McIntyre any.
Well, yeah, all right.
Triple H versus Orton was my match of the night, and I gave it a 7.25.
What was Stomping Grounds? Go on.
Stomping Grounds, I gave that a 7.75. Ricochet versus Joe for the US title.
Well, it was actually the match of the night was New Day versus Sami Zayn, and that was a 7.5.
Extreme Rules was next. Braun versus Lashley was my match of the night, and I gave that an 8.
Braun versus mine was Taker versus Reigns. Taker and Reigns teaming up, of course. Who can forget that match against Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre? I gave that an 8, and then TakeOver Toronto, a 9.25 rating with Cole versus Gargano is the my match of the night. I too gave that a 9.25 rating, and Cole versus Gargano was my match. Brock versus Seth was both our matches of the night for SummerSlam. Mine was an 8.75 rating. Mine was an 8.25. Fucking hell. And then NXT TakeOver Cardiff, a 9.75 rating. Walter versus Bate was my match of the night. Walter versus Bate was my match of the night too. I gave that a 9.5. Clash of Champions, 8.75. Braun versus Rollins, my match of the night. Banks versus Lynch was my match of the night, and I gave it an 8.5. And then Hell in a Cell, Banks v Lynch, and Hell in a Cell was my match of the night. Banks versus Lynch was my match of the night as well, and I also gave it a 7.5. And then Crown Jewels, another 7.5, and it was Braun Strowman versus Fury, my match of the night. Yep, same all across the board with me. Braun versus Fury. And I gave that an 8.25. And then AEW Full Gear, the very first AEW pay-per-view watch. No, 7.5. Yeah, you got 7.5. AEW Full Gear, the very first podcast pay-per-view, AEW pay-per-view watch. I gave that a 9 out of 10, and Mox versus Omega was my match of the night. Rio versus Sakura was an absolutely brilliant match for me, my match of the night, and I gave that an 8.25. And NXT War Games, 8.75. The Women's War Games match is my main event. That was the best match of the night. My match of the night was the Women's War Games 2, and I gave that a 9. And then Survivor Series 2019 was an 8.25. The men's elimination match, my match of the night. Cole versus Dunn was my match of the night. Again, you know, my man of the year just keeps delivering. He does. And I gave that an 8.25. And of course, TLC. My match of the night was Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy, and my rating was 7.75 out of 10. My match of the night for TLC was 2 Ali B versus Buddy Murphy, and I gave that a 7.5 out of 10. So, out of all them then, I think people might have worked out at home exactly what it was. But, I mean, with matches, all those matches, which out of them that you can see kind of strikes out at you? Do you remember just looking at them? Do you know what I mean?
Walter versus Bate sticks out. The Cole versus Gargano matches. There's a few that kind of stick out.
It's going to be difficult, isn't it? It's going to be difficult. But I think on my rating alone, I think there's one pay-per-view I gave more than anything else. That was 9.752. And that is TakeOver Cardiff. NXT TakeOver UK Cardiff. That is my pay-per-view of the year. Of course, we had Walter versus Bate. We had the Flash Morgan Webster and going up against Grizzled Young Vets. We had a lot of stuff on that card that was absolutely brilliant. Dan, what about your pay-per-view of the year?
My pay-per-view of the year was an NXT New York. I gave that a 9.5. It was a stacked card, Again, it's Cole versus Gargano was like the standout match of it. We had Candice LeRae going against we had the War Raiders versus Black O'Shea. We had Velveteen Dream versus Riddle. Walter defeating Pete Dunne for the United Kingdom Championship. Ending his monstrous reign with that. And, of course, Shayna Baszler defeating Io Shirai, Belair and Kairi Sane in a fatal four-way match for the Women's Championship as well.
Don't get me wrong, it was a great pay-per-view, but, it was better just because of that one performance. And it's going to bleed into the match of the year because the pay-per-view of the year, of course, Cardiff, for me, the match of the year was Walter versus Bate. It was just titanic storytelling from both men. A 50-minute match that kind of flew by. I rewatched it recently, and it flew by yet again. The stuff that each man was doing to each other, offensively and defensively, is something to behold. The closing segments in that, the fans just completely behind Tyler Bate, and the way he kind of dived over the cross, was using the kind of high-risk moves. Even Walter realised after a while it was so difficult to kind of put Tyler Bate down. It was just a kind of perfect match, and for me I look at all these matches, it stands out head and shoulders kind of above the rest, so that's why it's my match of the year. Dan, what is your match of the year?
My match of the year, from my pay-per-view of the year, is Cole versus Gargano, 2 out of 3 falls. Johnny Gargano, his sets with Tommaso Ciampa, they were my matches of the year last year. Johnny Gargano again features in it alongside my man of the year, Adam Cole. They had a few sets of matches throughout the year at NXT New York. They had TakeOver Toronto and TakeOver 25 as well. And, it was hard to choose one of them, so I just had to go back and choose, the match that kind of started it all between them two. Yeah,
I think without a doubt, when you look at those trilogy of matches are fucking awesome, and it's difficult to pick apart which one was as good. But I think Cole Gargano's there just shows you. Is it disappointing or is it not surprising that we've not really talked about the main roster when it comes to matches and pay-per-views? It's been either UK or NXT takeovers that have taken it.
I don't think it's surprising at all. My wrestler of the year, Adam Cole from NXT. My woman of the year, Io Shirai from NXT. Underrated, Lorcan and Birch, NXT. Keith Lee, NXT. Even one of my most hated and overrated is Matt Riddle from NXT.
Do you think we will actually see a 5-star singles match in WWE now with NXT and NXT UK? We always talk about, Styles Nakamura or, people like this going against each other. It's never truly delivered, has it,
It hasn't, no. And again, we see our best matches at NXT TakeOver events. And then you've got a WWE that has to try and follow that doesn't quite live up to the expectations. So I think therein lies the problem. If it was on a separate weekend, I know like the WrestleMania weekend's a huge event, but it is really impossible for WWE to follow an NXT pay-per-view.
And that's what it seems like. So maybe they have a chance at the Royal Rumble. But it'll be difficult. But like I say, NXT has kind of pissed this year. One final award. So it is Superstar of the Year. Male, female combined. Dan, who is your Superstar of the Year? I think my Superstar of the Year, I'll give you time to think. I think my one is without doubt Becky Lynch. I think Lynch comes out on top for Superstar. When you kind of merchandise sold, when you look about everything that kind of she has done this year, I think Becky Lynch is the man, you know, when it comes to WWE. The amount of pay-per-views she's headlined this year, when you compare, you know, how many pay-per-views have women headlined? How many pay-per-views have women's main evented? Not that many, you know?
A handful.
Becky Lynch, when you look at them, has probably been in all of them bar maybe one or two. You know, last year against Ronda Rousey, she wasn't at Survivor Series because she got injured. But since then, she has delivered. She made Seth Rollins, the Universal Champion, look secondary compared to what Becky Lynch was doing. So I think that's why Becky Lynch is my superstar of the year.
I would have to agree with you on that one. You know, I think Becky Lynch, she's not faltered since becoming, you know, since kind of announcing herself as the man. It was in around Survivor Series last year, and she kind of made her stamp, and she has gone and rolled with it. You know, as you say, WrestleMania main event, came in the Royal Rumble, won that. You know, and that she's had the highest rated segments. You know, even when she was on NXT, that's the kind of like part that blew over AEW as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, exactly. That helped them out when she came over. Yeah. They finally won the ratings war, you know, yeah.
Again, you know, with these awards, are you surprised that the only mention that AEW has got for Johnny Gargano, Most Punishment, and that was for me? You know, Mox and Omega, there's been...
Aubrey Edwards got she was involved, yeah.
You know, it is bare minimum, though. But do you think next year that's going to change and it'll be kind of split between NXT UK, NXT UK, and AEW, or do you think it's still going to be WWE branded heavy?
Hopefully it will change, and that's why we're trying to plan it next year. We might have a couple of NJPW guys. Will Ospreay might be top of our list, depending on how many great matches that we see. And this is why we're opening it up now. We're opening up the field for anybody else. Of course, we're still going to be W6 because they're the kind of biggest show in town, but we're still going to be bringing everything else that we've got. You know, like I say, a few of these people, you know, talk about rest of the year. It's going to be interesting to see what about next year. You know, someone like Pete Dunne, who at this moment in time was, you know, rest of the year last year, and now is not even featured on the list. So will he have to be worried a little bit about that? It is what it is. We're going to find out next year about it, because that is the 5th annual WNR Awards. Are you happy with the awards this year?
I am very happy with the awards, yeah. I think, you know, they're well-deserved awards, and I think, you know, a lot of thought and effort went into these. You know, it's not like I just sat down today and done them.
No, I mean, what fucking idiot would do that, you know? But I'm glad, because we've had the presents, we've done the awards. It's time for dinner now, and we're going to watch the Queen's speech as we always do. But Dan, there is only just one thing left to do before the end of the year. Do you know what that is? No, I'm talking about next week. I'm talking about the be-all and end-all.
It is, yeah. It's going to decide who wears the original ugly T-shirt, bro. You know, the Matt Riddle T-shirt. It's been looming in the background for the latter part of this year. And it's, you know, it's been hanging over us like a very, very, very bad smell. And it is, you know, you are slightly ahead in predictions, but, you know, the year-end predictions is where it all comes to fruition. I can't remember hardly any of what I've gone for. You know, who I've got as my champion for the end of the year, who I've got main event in the big 4 pay-per-views, anything. I can't remember a single thing.
No. Well, like I said, there's only one thing to do, and that is the year-end awards. We have 3 prediction leagues every year. Of course, NXT, WWE, and bonus points. We have them all up, and then we get the sealed envelope that we did at the end of last year, which is our bonus prediction or year-end predictions. And basically, for every single champion, 5 moments to happen. There are, you know, probably another 25 points on the line when it comes to that.
30 points.
There are so many points, and we'll find out next week who wins. Who is the definitive champion of the WNR podcast? Is it me or is it Dan? We'll find out next week. But that's it for our Christmas special. It's been a great Christmas, but I've really enjoyed Christmas this year in the cottage.
Yep, yeah, I absolutely love cottaging and getting stuffed alongside you, opening up the big packages you've given me.
No doubt. I mean, I love Christmas, and I'm always in the Christmas spirit. And this year has been extra special. But like we say, next year for the WNR podcast is going to be even bigger and better. But, you know, join us next week for the year-end shows. And again, you know, a huge shout-out to all the listeners who kind of indulge in our live shows when we're droning on for a couple of hours playing Elephant or F1 or Basler or Done, you know. Just going on for our games. You know, they're our most successful pod live. But, you know, to everyone that catches up throughout the week and,
it's all down to you.
Yeah.
And listening to us and James, of course, the man who writes the script, the man who edits the podcast and posts it. I'll just turn up every day with my natural raw talent.
Well, I tell you a little inside. AEW actually beat out the last couple of WWE pay-per-views on people listening as well. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the new year. Are people finally sick of WWE and ready to try something else? We're going to be ready with you for that. But like I said, next week, our year end is going to be incredible. But don't forget, you can find us on the internet. We're on the internet. Just go on the internet. We're there.
Google.
Google.
There are other search engines available.
Bing. I mean, who uses Bing
Alta
anymore?
Vista. Ask Jeeves.
Bust out the Ask Jeeves and do that. No, across all social media. We're on Twitter at the WWE Network Review or
at Vince McDan WWE.
I'm at J_Rollers across all the Google platforms. Send us an email, the WNR Podcast at gmail.com. We're on Instagram, the WNR Podcast there. We're on Facebook.
Yes, Facebook. Come and find our page and give us a like. We are the WNR Podcast.
Yay.
Or you can come and find me and add me as a friend. I am Vince McDan.
Yes, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the WNR Podcast. We've got latest clips on there and maybe a bit of Joey Ryan dick flipping. And of course, podcast got the same time on YouTube to do other places like SoundCloud.
On your phone.
Those on Spreaker. And we'll give you, when we come back in the new year, we'll give you the schedule for the new year. We're going to have a shit ton of live shows on Spreaker, on Stitcher Radio, and of course iTunes, where you can download, subscribe, rate and review there. But that is it. A very Merry Christmas for everybody that listens to us, the WNR Podcast, and throughout the year. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you for the year end. I have been James Rowlands, and as always, joined by
Dan White.
Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.